Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, good morning. This is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning on Monday morning, November the 7th. I'm glad to be here. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. We're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. And the chat room's open. I'll put the link in there to what we were talking about last week and the week before a little bit, looking at soul expressions, abuse recovery. That's really dealing with child sexual abuse or sexual abuse of any type. And the website is I don't know. It sort of seems to be mainly geared for women, but it's a good website. There's all kinds of information on there about the abuse cycle and maintaining recovery. What is abuse? Self-sabotaging and all kinds of stuff on there. So hopefully people will take a look, and I think it's a pretty good resource for people who are looking for information and also looking for support. The one who runs the website and owns the website is named Becky. I don't know her last name. But she's a therapist and a counselor, and she's a survivor herself. So she knows firsthand what it's like, and she talks a whole lot about, the things she had to deal with in her healing and recovery. And so it's kind of good for, people like myself to, or anyone who's a survivor out there who's on their healing journey to take a look and see what's there. She does have some great information, even information about eating disorders and just all kinds of stuff there. So lots of good stuff there. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'm not a counselor or therapist. I'm just a private citizen paying to do my shows here on Blog Talk Radio, and I say that on every show just in case somebody's listening for the first time. And I'm just you have to listen at your own discretion because I'm talking about abuse. That abuse is a sensitive topic, and you have to know what's good for you to listen to. And if you think the topics of abuse of any type might bother you or trigger you as a survivor, you need to know what's good for you to listen to and make that decision, and make the right decision for yourself. So listen at your own discretion to all of my shows. So I'm talking about abuse, and I don't sugarcoat it. I don't minimize it. I just tell it like it is, right? So young people under the age of 18, I just ask that you have permission to listen to my shows. Have an adult, someone who's older, who's an adult, who can help you make a decision whether or not you should be listening to this show or any of my shows. My shows are not for younger children. They're not. It's definitely mature adult material, my shows. So young people under the age of 18 and under, just have an adult listen to the show with you, and they can help you make a decision whether it's age appropriate for you, right? So we'll get it right into this, and I want to look at the Healing Your Inner Child portion of this website. And if you go to www.soul-expressions-abuse-recovery.com, that's where we're at. So I'm just going to copy the link and put it in the chat room now, and it's some good information. She's actually there on Saturdays. She's got like a little Bitwine little button there that if she's online on Saturday from 8 to 5, she says, Monday through Saturday, she says, then you can actually talk to her. She's offline right now, but she says if she's online, you can talk to her or you can leave a message for her, right? So she's there. She's trying to provide a support system for people. So it is actually really, really cool. And I just want to take a look at we're down at the inner child, the healing your inner child. That's where we're at, looking at inner child stuff. And we already kind of have been into this article last week, Healing Your Inner Child, and we left off where she was saying, this 5-year-old has undoubtedly been making many decisions for you most of your life. So, and she was talking about her own story too, that her inner children were definitely making the decisions for her in her life. So she says, think about it. A 5-year-old has probably been controlling your behavior most of the time. Ask yourself, what kind of relationships have you been in? Have you had any drug or alcohol problems? Have you gotten in trouble acting out in any way? What has your behavior been like? So she says, if you have kids of your own, have you found yourself actually arguing with your child on more than one occasion? She says, think about it. It wastes time and energy, and you are an adult. So she says, why are you bringing yourself down to their level and arguing with them? Only another child would do that. She says, hey, I'm not judging. I've done it more than once myself. So she's been there, and she knows what it's like. And also, allowing our inner child or inner children to just basically run our decision-making processes, like on shopping or just anything like that, like what do you want to call that, when people just go out and they shop, they don't even think about what it costs or whether they can afford it, just kind of almost like a shopaholic. It's like, oh, I got to have it. I want it right now. Well, that's me. I'm all about instant gratification. Like I don't necessarily buy things. I'm not so much into things like clothes or jewelry or new purses or shoes or anything like that. But if I want books or something that interests me, then it's the same thing. I'll be out there. I'll be like, well, I want this. I want this, right? Just like a little kid, and with no control. It's like, okay, well, you can't afford that. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm looking at whatever it is saying, okay, I know I can't afford that. I'm just like, I want it. This is like a little kid. But I know my inner children have been running the bus forever, so I've just recently got that under control, and I'm working on it. I'm the adult in the situation. I need to be responsible and not allow my inner children to make those decisions. And that's most of my inner child decisions that I've noticed, as far as taking a look back at my own behaviors over my lifetime, really, is relationship stuff. My inner children don't want to get hurt. They don't want to get hurt anymore by anyone. They're just like, they don't trust anybody. So relationship stuff, I have a hard time with relationships because it's like, yeah, my inner children are saying, you know what, they're going to hurt us. They're going to hurt us. They are, because that's what they've experienced in their lifetime. Myself from so long ago, just realizing that everybody has the potential to hurt everybody, but that's the truth. And but yet, if we close everybody off, it's a lonely life. We miss out on the possibility of having a great relationship with a friend or coworker or even a family member. My family members, I cut them all off, but just cut them right out of my life because they're just too toxic. They just bring me down, and they take me back to that place where I was as a child, just underneath their thumb and underneath their scrutiny and their criticism and their the fact that they don't care that the abuse even happened, and they think it's okay that that what happened in my family happened, and they don't want to face it. So they're not on their healing journey, so they're just too toxic, and I can't be a part of that anymore, so I had to cut them off. But so as far as relationships go, I enter into relationships very cautiously, but I still think, hey, I want people to give me the benefit of the doubt. So as an adult woman and, heading towards 50 year, it's like I want people to give me the benefit of the doubt. And so I kind of have to do the same thing for them, because not everybody is going to, on purpose, intentionally hurt other people. There are good people out there. I'm starting to learn this. I started to learn that actually as a teenager. I started to see that there were some good people out there, and very few and far between, but that there were some, and that it was possible to meet some good people and actually have some good people in your life. And through my adult life, I sort of haven't made any real major relationships except for my sweetheart, who I've been with for 16 years, and other than that, that's about it. I've pretty well sort of, I don't know, haven't had any good concrete relationships. I did for a long time have a great friendship with a friend of mine for about 12, 13 years, and we were like best friends, but then we broke off. We had a huge blow up, and we had been spending like every day working together because we were working together, and I think we just got tired of each other. I think she just got tired of me, and she didn't know how to deal with my stuff, and I didn't know how to deal with hers, and she's very much a codependent, toxic person, narcissistic as well, and so she sort of kept me in a sort of same cycle that my mother kept me on, and after a while I started to recognize it as abuse, and really it was, so I finally broke it off. Like I said, that's it, no more, and that's too bad, but that's the way it has to be. I can't allow anybody to abuse me. I really can't, and I really refuse. So I'd rather be on my own. To be honest with you, if it was just a world of abusers left, then I would just rather be on my own, right? I'm so tired of people mistreating me and being hurtful and not caring and not apologizing and thinking that it's okay to hurt people and that why should they apologize? There's all kinds of people out there like that. My mother was one. She didn't mind hurting me or hurting anybody, and then she wouldn't apologize for it. She'd just be like, well, no, I don't owe you an apology. That's what you get. No child deserves to be abused like that. You know what I mean? And she just had no soul as far as I was concerned. Just a black heart, And I've met so many people out there like that. So you do have to be careful, like who you allow into your life. Right now I've got some awesome friends because I cut out all the negative ones and I cut out the ones who were abusive, and now I have some really good friends in my life. And that's awesome. right? That's a good thing. I don't want to close everybody out just because they have the potential to hurt me, you know what I mean? Like, that's a sad situation. That's very lonely. But I'm very cautious about who I do allow into my to get that close, you know what I mean? Um and that's my inner children really saying, you know what, that we don't want to get hurt anymore. That's myself from 7 years old, 8 years old, 6 years old, 11 years old, 12, 13 years old, saying, you know what, we can't take anymore. Like, are you going to protect us or what? They're talking to me, the adult, saying, you have to make sure that they don't hurt us. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, well, people have the potential to hurt everybody. So I'm trying to work with my inner children to show them that, hey, things are okay now. And so that's what I'm doing, is a whole lot of inner child healing work, right? Which is why I'm interested in this part of this website. But she goes on to talk about addictions and whatnot. She says, instant gratification can also be attributed to a child inside of you making the decision to buy something. The child wants it right now, regardless of the consequences. As far as the same goes for drugs, alcohol, gambling, and most addictions, she says. And she says, personally, like, she talks about her own story, I had a 12-year-old making most of my decisions for me, mostly bad decisions. I wanted what I wanted, and I wanted it right now. So my consequence was that I had bad relationships, and I went into debt big time. So she says, now how do you stop the out-of-control inner child and take back your power? She says, well, it really is about healing your inner child and help from God, she says. And healing your inner child, I've done a whole lot of looking at that. Like everybody, most people would know who's been tuning into my shows for months and months and months. But Robert Burney's got some great stuff on the inner child as well. Robert Burney, Codependence, The Dance of Wounded Souls. That's a book that he's an author, and he wrote a book, and he has a website. And it's a great website. Like, he's got tons and tons of information on there about codependency, also the inner child healing work, and all kinds of stuff, right? And he's a counselor and a therapist and whatnot. Robert Burney. He's got a great book, Codependence, The Dance of Wounded Souls, and that's an awesome book. I'm also working in John Bradshaw's books, Homecoming, Reclaiming and Healing Your Inner Child, and also Healing the Shame That Binds You from John Bradshaw. And I'm also working in Beverly Cyril's program, and that is Forget Talking Therapy. And it's all about guided imagery and visualization and using pictures instead of words. It's not like Beverly was saying, well, talking is no good. What she's trying to say is the healing really comes through the pictures and the guided imagery, because the part of the brain that stores the trauma is the limbic system, and the limbic system does not have a language. There's no words. There's no communication in there. It's all pictures. That's why the flashbacks come. That's why I can still see my mother beating on me. That's why I still have those memories of all the horrific stuff that happened in my family. It's all pictures, right? And it's all in the limbic system, and that's why I need to change, the horror of what I experienced with pictures, to help myself to see that, hey, I'm okay. To help my inner children to feel safe, because there's no way I can go back and change things, obviously, right? The past is the past, and what it is what it is. But what I can do is create a safe place for myself now and say, because I didn't, that's the whole issue, I think, with abuse, and especially when people like survivors of abuse have, especially childhood abuse, who didn't have the bond between the mother, the bond with the father. Like, I didn't bond with either of my parents. Like, I was born, the last child born out of rape, right? My parents didn't want me. My mother didn't want me. My dad didn't want any of his children. My parents were horrific. They were so down by the time I came along. Really, I mean, they were screwed up from the beginning. But by the time I came along, there was no sense of family left, right? And so I was just kind of there. Like, nobody was really nurturing me. Nobody was thinking about, well, how, let's do the normal family thing. There was no normal family thing. You know what I mean? There was no hugs. There was no, there was nobody taking care of anybody in my home. So I had to kind of learn how to do that myself. And I just missed out on this whole bond I needed to have really with my mother. And so my inner children need that, and they're suffering. And so what I'm doing is going back in and providing that for them, really. And that's what, John Bradshaw's books are really mainly about. And Beverly Cyril, her program, forget talking therapy is really the same thing. You're using guided imagery and visualization to go in and create these safe places with these nurturers, whoever the nurturer is, and whoever you decide the nurturer should be that your inner children or inner child would need, which isn't my mother. You know what I mean? That's the last thing they want to see is my mother. My mother hurt them extremely bad. So they need somebody who's very loving and gentle and kind, and who would never ever hurt them, and who would love them unconditionally and just tell them that all the time. And so that bigger safe person is who I call my blue angel, and that's who I have in there to do the work, And so it's really helped me out. Like, I feel like my inner children aren't screaming anymore. They're not freaking out. They're not bleeding anymore, which is great. I had so many problems with realizing that my inner children were stuck in these places where the trauma occurred, right? And it was traumatic. You know what I mean? We're talking fight or flight situation where my body was being assaulted, in any number of ways, and was a possibility of death, And my inner child had to learn how to cope with that, myself at 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old. And that trauma, that's where I was stuck, right? So my inner children were still there, and they were still bleeding, and they were still scared, and they were still so freaked out by the abuse, And so what I did was I went and rescued them and brought them to a safe place. So that's really what that's all about. And I feel a lot better since doing that, and this has been happening over a period of about I would say about the last 6 months, that this has taken place. And it definitely has made a huge difference in my healing journey, and I feel like I don't feel so overwhelmed by my inner children, I guess because they're not so overwhelmed anymore, right? So that's what this stuff really, to me is all about. It certainly has helped me. I don't know if it would help anybody else, you know what I mean? It just has helped me. I just know that. But, there is a whole lot of stuff out there on it, so if anybody is interested in looking into it, there is quite a lot of information out there about inner child healing work, right? I'm still working on it because I still have some things to do because I still have some of the healing work to do. But the thing is that they're in much a better place. I don't have the same amount of flashbacks that I used to have, and I don't have the same amount of horrible feelings that I used to have. Just this leftover stuff, just mainly memories, body memories, even just regular memories, of that where it was just too overwhelming. You know what I mean? And even as an adult, sitting around in my 40s, just going, oh my God, I was inundated by this, which is pretty much why I was considering suicide, was because I was in so much pain. I was like, oh my God, internally, like not just in my body, but just in my heart, just so much pain from knowing, just knowing what I went through and just thinking, oh my God, like I needed love, I needed care, I needed help, And now I'm suffering, and now who's going to help me now? I didn't realize that I was going to have to go back in and do this, right? So I was just thinking, how am I going to get out of this pain, And I didn't realize that it was just going to have to be me to get myself out of this pain. There's really no one else that can do it for us. We have to be willing to do the work, whatever it is, with a therapist, counselor, group support, online group support, anonymous group support, or a friend, or whatever, psychotherapist, you name it. But we have to be the ones to go and say, you know what, I need help. I want this to change. I want to feel better. If we don't do that, we're going to be stuck in that same cycle, perpetual cycle of misery and suffering, really. And people, it's not even our fault. We're set up for that, right? If you're abused as a child, you're just set up for that, and there isn't any way, like unless somebody gets a hold of you at a young age and says, look, you need to heal, you need to allow yourself to heal, to be good to yourself, and to get help, and allow people to treat you right, and allow people to be good to you, you know what I mean? And you need to be good to yourself, If people aren't telling you that, then you could go your whole lifetime not realizing that it can be done, And I'm glad I finally, 4.5 years ago, decided to start seeking it out. I was like, I need help, and I'm going to reach out. And I don't care if I have to call a crisis line, if I have to show up at a counselor's office and make an appointment, if I have to check myself in the hospital, like whatever it is, I'm going to do this because I so deserve it. I was sitting on the couch and I realized that the reason I wanted to kill myself because my parents had set me up on a life of suicide because they were suicidal. My brothers killed themselves, and two of my brothers committed suicide. And I thought, why do I have to go that way? Why do I have to end up in my life in this stupidity of suicide or some some sort of violent death, which I used to think I sort of needed as a teenager. But then I got older and I realized, well, okay, maybe it's just suicide at the end. And I'm so glad that I made the decision to get help, because now I can count myself a thriver, and I can say, you know what, to my abusive parents and my abuser brother, and I can say, shame on you, the shame wasn't mine, certainly didn't belong to me, and it belongs to my abusers, and I get to walk free, and that's a beautiful feeling, it really is, because I'm not anywhere near, or I'm not even close to where I was 4.5 years ago when I was contemplating self-injury and suicide. I'm so much further along on my healing journey because I just allow myself to get help, whatever it is. You know what I mean? But it's not easy. That's what, there's another whole. Me and Kate Swift were talking about that yesterday on the show. It's not easy. It's not an easy journey. It's not an easy road. We have to have safety mechanisms put in place. We have to have people that we can call on, that are our safety mechanism people that, if we're having a hard time, we can't cope, we need to have those people in place, whatever they may be, whether it's our counselor, whether it's our, our crisis line, whether it's our friend or whatever. We need to have these safety mechanisms put in place because it's not an easy journey, this healing journey. It's really not. And especially once you start facing the reality of what we went through. This is what I'm doing head on, just facing it. And it's not easy, And people would say, well, how come you're coping so well? Well, people don't know what I'm doing at night when I'm sitting around after I'm done on my computer or sitting there, with my Facebook up. And people don't know what I'm going through at night when I'm just sitting on Facebook. And they might think, oh, she's probably just sitting there having a good time. And people don't probably realize that I'm sitting here remembering back to all this horrific stuff that happened to me as a child and trying to make sense of it and trying to heal my inner children from it, and saying, it's okay, that was then, this is now, they can't hurt me anymore, and talking to my inner child, they can't hurt you anymore, and just going through this, trying to remember to self-nurture and self-soothe and stay proactive and stay positive. It's a hard road, it really is. It's not an easy journey for anyone, and so that's why it's important to have some safety mechanisms in place and have some support. I have friends who support me on a regular basis, on a daily basis actually, who check in with me every day, just to see how I'm doing. My own family wouldn't even do that. They don't care if I kill myself. They don't care that I was raped as a child. They don't care. They don't care about anything. They don't even care about themselves. So why would they care about me? I can't expect them to, right? Like, they're dysfunctional and abusive, and that's why I had to cut them off. So I have friends who care about me, and that's awesome. Like, that is such an awesome thing. You know what I mean? To know that people actually do really care, and that, they'll check in with you and make sure you're okay. But you got to find good friends, right? So if you're a survivor and you're listening to this and you're like, man, I haven't found any good friends, it's like, well, you got to keep looking and be diligent, and, you have to be a good friend to have a good friend, first of all. There's another one. You really do. You can't expect a person to be a good friend to you if you're not going to be a good friend to them. So it works both ways. So you have to be willing to put yourself out there a little bit and be a good friend in order to get a good friend, and then you have to make sure that person is really trustworthy. And by doing, you can do that in a number of ways, by watching their behaviors, watching what they say, watch what they do, watch what kind of people they are. If they're talking about other people, they're probably talking about you. If they're rude about other people, they're probably going to be rude about you. If they're kind-hearted and they're good people, they're probably going to be kind and good to you. So you need to kind of watch what they're doing, right, and make sure that if you do find a support system and a buddy system with survivors or with other people, that they're not going to hurt you again, right? Because it just sets us up for another fall and makes us think, oh, it'll never change, but it will, and it can, and we have to get help, like whatever way that is. You know what I mean? It's very important. So she says, now how do you stop the out-of-control inner child and take back your power? Well, it really is about healing your inner child and help from God. So she says, how do you go about healing your inner child? Well, I prefer the empty chair method. And she goes on to talk about this. She says it's a Gestalt method that some therapists use. I liked it because I like it because it's concrete and it worked for me with my anger release. So she's went through this Gestalt method. I've never done it, but she says it worked for her anger release and whatnot. So she says when I did this, I spoke to the two inner children inside of me, the 12-year-old and the 18-year-old, and those were the ages I was when I was abused. And she says, like I said before, the 12-year-old had been most in control for the longest time and needed the most healing, and she was the most non-trusting, the most seductive, God-hating, and really the most hurt. And she needed love the most. So, activity for your inner child. For this exercise, you will need an empty chair, a stuffed animal, Kleenex, and to make sure your environment is safe, right? And so this is quite interesting because I've never done this empty chair thing, and it would be quite interesting to do. Maybe I've done it in a different way, but just pretend to visualize that child part of you is sitting in the corner in front of you, and tell her that you understand her anger, her fears, her pain. Or if you're a guy, you could say, that his anger, his fears, his pain, right, from the abuse. But you can't allow him to control your life anymore. And you are the adult, not them, right? Tell your inner child that you're taking over the job, and tell your inner child that you love them and that you're always going to be there for them and you will never leave them. So tell them that the abuse is over and that you can that you can only be healthy if you move forward. Well, I've done that work. Yeah, that's right. Well, I've done that work with Beverly Searle's work, which is the forget talking therapy, and that's with the visualizations, guided imagery. That's part of it, and even like John Bradshaw has some stuff in there about that. So the Gestalt method, I guess, is very much people are using that in different ways, but it is the same thing. I had to go in and tell my inner children that I'm the adult, I'm in charge, that I can handle, what's coming now, you know what I mean, and that they no longer have to bear the burden of the abuse, that they no longer have to bear that pain by themselves anymore. Because I shut them away. Especially the 8-year-old who was sexually abused, I just totally locked the door on her. I didn't want to even go back there, But I had to literally go back, as I knew she was still in that bedroom, and I knew exactly where she was, and I had to go back in there and get her and apologize for leaving her there for so long, without even wanting to even think about her. She was left on her own, and so I had to go in there and basically rescue her, and tell her it's okay, like whatever you need, that's what I'm going to get. Whatever you need, we'll work through it, telling myself basically that we're okay, that we're going to be all right. And also, as a group, I had to go and talk to my inner children because I have quite a few, and tell them that I'm in charge now, and they no longer need to be responsible for these types of decisions. They can be children. So that's what I'm doing now, is learning how to, to allow them to be children, to allow myself to be a child. I've actually bought some crayons and a coloring book, and I color with my inner child and different things like that, right? And I still have a lot more work to do on that, because I was not really, when I was a child, I wasn't an innocent child, you know what I mean? I was coloring. I used to color. I had crayons and coloring books. I had paper dolls and stuff, and I had Barbies, but I was also abused, so it's not like I was a happy child sitting there playing, with thoughts in my head that were just like childlike thoughts. In my head, it was like, well, when Dad gets home, Mom's going to scream, and then there's going to be a big fight, and then I'm going to get hit, and then, it was always this nervousness because growing up in that home that I grew up in, it was nerve-wracking. There was always something going on, and somebody was always getting hurt, and sometimes it was me, So I didn't ever relax as a child. I could never relax, and so as an adult, I have a hard time relaxing. Have a hard time just sitting around in my own apartment and just being comfortable in my own space. It doesn't matter where I'm at. I'm just not comfortable in my space, in my body. I'm not comfortable in my world, right? And so that's what I'm really working on now, is changing that, right? So it's a good feeling to be working through it, even though it's hard. It's hard work, but I know at the end of the road I'm going to be so much better off for it. So we can do this work, right? So you can check this out. This is from Soul Expressions, AbuseRecovery.com, activity for healing your inner child, right? And make sure whatever you do, though, make sure you get some help. Like if you're having a hard time and you're just thinking, man, I don't know if I can cope another day, because so many of us have been there, you know what I mean? You just remember that yes, you can, and it's literally up to you to pick up a crisis line phone and call them. You know what I mean? It's literally up to you. It is your responsibility to get some help. Nobody can do that for you. And that's where I was at 4.5 years ago, ready to kill myself. And I realized, like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm doing exactly what my parents want me to do, which is to take myself out. Two of my brothers killed themselves. My parents, by me staying alive, it's just it's a slap in my parents' face, is what it is, and my brother. It's just a slap in their face, like, ha ha, you could not kill me, ha ha. That's my victory dance, you know what I mean? And I'm happy because they couldn't kill me, and they couldn't get me to kill myself. So you know what? Do not allow yourself to be destroyed by the abuse. Honest to God, do not do that. You get some help, whatever it is. There's no shame in that. You know where the shame is? It lies with the abusers. There's no shame in reaching out and getting help. So do whatever you have to do to get yourself some help and get yourself well, because you so deserve it, so do I. Right? Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you tonight. Bye-bye.